esport racing game. This is iRacing.
The Spec Racer Ford is more of an American machine. Set up to provide a spec class purpose-built race car in the SCCA, it's been popular for multiple decades now. And while it's more commonly seen on tracks over here in North America, the beauty of sim racing means we get to create any combination possible. So with a history of classic Silverstone being hard to resist, today we rock up to this legendary British circuit. We'll see who comes away the victor as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Weekend Warriors, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Ryan Walker. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Silverstone has since been updated from this version, but it's hard to beat an old favorite. To find out a little bit more about this early 2000s layout, let's head over to our track guide. Welcome to Silverstone. Most famously known for being the first circuit to host a round of Formula One, this place has since become synonymous with British motorsports. Hosting everything from sports cars to touring cars to open wheels and even motorcycles, it's a track that fits a wide variety of vehicles. With 5 different layouts to choose from, you've got a little something for any level of racing. The longest of those layouts boasts 17 turns over more than 3 miles or 5 kilometers, so it can take a bit to get around it, even in higher-powered machinery. Its main characteristics are the long straights, swift corners, and general lack of elevation change. Its most famous set of turns is definitely the Maggots-Beckett sequence, in which anything with high downforce finds itself challenged with the rapid changes of direction. While there is a fair bit of paved runoff in quick corners like Copse and Stowe, the time lost from going off can be costly. There's a few turns with opportunities for overtaking, including Vale, Abbey, and Priory, but in cars with less horsepower, expect the slipstream to be where many attempt to get by. The Hangar Straight is perhaps the most notorious for draft battles to erupt. All in all, this versatile racetrack located just northwest of London provides both history in its roots and action on the tarmac. The huge number of British fans that typically attend events are seldom left wanting. You see a few sunnier shots than what we've got here today, but I guess it's appropriate to have this sort of British weather here. Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about what this track is like with this car, though?
Absolutely fantastic track with the Spec Racer Ford, and as you say, it's a bit traditional to have this sort of weather in the UK. And some details about the track as well. It says 3.194 miles in length, or 5.14 kilometers if you prefer to use that. Has an amazing 17 turns, and the race length for this race will be a 40-minute race with a pit stop included.
So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but we want to remind you that the Weekend Warriors is brought to you by Sim Stickers. Whether it's button boxes, steering wheels, or keyboards, they have you covered. And now, if you use the promo code GSRC10 when purchasing, you get 10% off of all orders for the whole season. You can find out more at simstickers.co.uk. Take a look at the championship. Thus far, it's been a little bit one-sided, unfortunately. 3 wins out of 3 rounds for David Gaspers has put him well into the lead, and Daniel Sadro is trailing. This is a little bit behind, I think, on the points, unless we're counting with the drop weeks here. Fred Desai, Steve Ray, and Emil Orza round out our top 5, of course. Then let's head over to that Spec 2 championship, the amateur championship here. Ryan, how is that sitting?
In the Spec 2 championship, it's currently being led by J. William Smith, and then right behind him, is PJ Gowdy and Yuri Cox currently tied in second place. And then third place is Dominic Bureau after that fantastic result at Laguna Seca last week. And not far behind them either is Larry McLeod in fifth place. So it's still really close in the Spec 2 Championship, and it's all to play for in the early stages of the season so far.
Now, we mentioned the day's race is 40 minutes long. Let's go over a few more of the details for today. We talked about that pit stop. That's because they've limited the fuel compared to what the real Spec Racer Ford can hold. So the 40-minute race will have at least one stop to gather fuel. Shouldn't expect really tires, though. They ration the points in this series, which is interesting, meaning that last place will always get 25, but they keep the points for the podium the same. It's 190 and 83. They do get penalty points if they get too many off tracks. For each 10 incidents, they get 3 penalty points, and they have a spare car waiting if they get any sort of damage. They try to be beginner friendly in this series just to make sure that everybody has a good time out here, but it still remains incredibly competitive out there. Speaking of competitive series, if you want more of those, you can find them on the iRacing Esports Network where you're watching right now. Make sure and subscribe. It's very easy. If you go below this video here on YouTube, there's a big red button that says subscribe. Click that. Won't miss a moment here on IESN. Now, as we look at the qualifying, no surprises here, Ryan. It's David Gaspers up at the front with Daniel Sadro following him pretty closely. And even though it was a little bit tighter in warm-up, it looks like Gaspers found a lot of speed that the rest of the field has yet to gather up.
No surprise, really, as you say, Joe. But David Gaspers has been the master of, or in a masterclass of his own this season so far. He's been absolutely dominant. But Daniel Sadro has been keeping him honest as well, and he's been there and thereabouts to challenge him for victories. But David just seems to have the upper hand so far this season. I wouldn't rule him out of taking the championship, but it's a bit too early to say that at this stage of the season.
One thing that I find interesting about this combination here, this track is more, meant for Formula One, high-powered GT cars and the like. So the corners that go by much quicker in those can be so much longer. And the thing we always talk about, Ryan, in this car is that lift throttle oversteer. So how tricky is it to try and get around here quickly? Does the rear kind of come around in a lot of places?
It's a tough car to drive. You can be quick with the car, but it requires you to be so precise with the car and not be too. It's not like a high downforce car that you can really just throw into the corners. You've got to be smooth. You've got to be smooth with the throttle, and it's got a lot of lift off oversteer, and you've got to. And also, you can't forget as well. These cars are so really really stiff, set up stiff as well. So it's a lot of lift off oversteer, and it just requires you to be really patient.
We'll watch and see if anybody falls victim to this place as we watch Juracek work his way past a car that seems to have had a little bit of an off track there. Billy Bob Wright currently holding down the third position in qualifying. That is very good for him. We talked about the Spec 2, and right now I believe our highest Spec 2 driver is Greg Stefani. I'm double checking because he's got a number 750 on his car. Usually it's 200 numbers that denote the Spec 2, so we'll try and clarify if Greg is indeed racing in that Spec 2 class. But if so, he holds the pole, and that is in 10th overall as we ride on board with the Hoosier.
Yep, I'm just having a look to see who else is in the Spec 2 class. I believe anyway, the next highest Spec 2 driver is, I believe it's possibly could be Dominic Bureau or even our very own Stefan Slacker.
I do see Kenneth Bately relatively high up. He's sitting in 19th right now. He's in the 222. PJ Gowdy is another one with a 700 number. Maybe they instituted a new class since we last checked in here. But Gowdy is right now in 16th. They're pretty spread out. There you see the 777 on your screen. Ed Doherty is one who's certainly found a little bit of pace in this round. He can be a bit back and forth, I've noticed, Ryan, but when he's on, he's really on. He's up to 4th right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I've watched Ed for quite some time in the Spec Racer Ford. After he, I think I started racing Spec Racer Ford round about the same time as him, or not long after him anyway. He's always been a decent driver and he's always been quick at times, but he's just never had the luck in races and just always been caught up in incidents or taken out in incidents that he's just been a passenger in. But it's good to see Ed up in P4. He's doing a good job at the moment. And I think if he stays there until the end of qualifying, this will be his best qualifying result of the season, I believe.
Watching Fred Desai abandon his lap. He's very close to Antonio Reese right now, just 2/100ths off of 5th place. Hence why we were trying to see if he could maybe improve on that. There's Reese right now. He himself is only a half a tenth off of Ed Doherty, so he could potentially work his way into this. He's just starting his lap, though, as he's coming through the Maggots and Beckett sequence. We've been seeing a lot of cars off track here in qualifying. Does seem to be a handful at this circuit, but the good news is it looks like the conditions with that overcast nature is keeping the track pretty cool here, Ryan.
I'm just looking at the track temperature as well. It's around about track temperature is about 71 degrees, 71 degrees Fahrenheit, I should say. So it's not too hot, but it's not too cold either. It's a bit in between. So I think that the track temperature will probably go up during the race, or maybe get cooler during the race. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of times and what sort of pace some of these drivers up at the front will be doing, especially in the mid pack as well. So it's worth keeping an eye on that.
Jason Perry seems to be a little bit of a holdover from Christmas time here, as he's still got his very festive paint scheme on it. As they come around through the final technical portion, some of the slowest corners here on the circuit. Let's see what he can do coming out of Luffield. Looks like he is actually on an out lap right now, so this one won't be any quicker. Over 2 minutes around here in these cars. It tells you just how long it is in the Spec Racer Ford, which doesn't have a whole lot of power underneath it. Chris Murakami, in the meantime, is trying to crack into the top 10. Ryan, let's see what he's got.
Yeah, just watching him coming up to the start-finish line. I'm just going to keep an eye and see what his lap time is. It looks like he's on a good lap, possibly. And he's also got the slipstream in front of him, so it could help him improve his lap time as he comes across the line to do a 209.4 or 209.5. So he doesn't improve.
Yeah, he's about a tenth off of his best, and Antonio Reese was the one giving that slipstream. We're wondering if he could catch up to Doherty. The answer to that is no. He did have a good lap as well. So Emil Orza, who we see on screen, and Steve Elson, 13th and 14th right now. Elson, actually, I'd say Elson a little bit out of position. We're used to seeing him at least within the top 10, but he's only qualified 15th right now, Ryan.
Steven Elson's another driver. As you say, Joe, he's normally up at the front, but he's a bit out of place. So I'm very surprised to see him only in the top, or round about the mid pack at the moment. But he's got a car in front of him. He could possibly try and use the slipstream to improve his lap time. But it's a bit surprised to see Stephen this far back.
Well, hopefully he can improve in this final minute. They're running out of time. A bunch of drivers just starting their final lap. I'm curious who's the last to be able to get across with just this 1 minute left. I'm going to wager, actually, Stefan Schlacker might be very close to it. He's actually slowing up right now, letting a couple cars through. Nick Carty and Ian Haycox. You can see them heading out of Priory into Brooklands, the old version of Brooklands now. With Carty leading the way, about 40 seconds left. Yeah, they're going to make it easily around, I'd say, to take one more lap.
Yeah, they're just coming up to the finish line now, so they should get across the line just in time before the timer runs out to get another attempt at trying to improve the lap time as Stefan crosses the line to start his last lap, and he's also got a car in front of him, so he might be able to use that to his advantage and possibly try and move himself up the grid.
Clock ticks down to 0. Is Jeff Jacobson going to make it across the line? As they hit it, looks like Jacobson just started his last lap, so Paul Jackson is going to be our first to take the checkered flag here. He's down at 29th, and as he crosses, looks like he didn't improve, unfortunately. Gaspers is going to abandon his lap. He's already on pole. He doesn't need to do much more. Juracek is happy with his 9th, or at least happy enough, as he heads into pit lane. Michael Shaw crosses. Shaw only at a 2:10.8, and that is not quicker than his best. A lot of cars coming into pit lane and deciding they can't go any quicker. Philippe Chauvin. Let's see what the Frenchman can do. 2:09.7. That's actually going to bump him up. Well, no positions. He stays where he is as he's 0.4 off Stevie Ray. 0.4 off, actually.
As I'm just looking at Stefan Slacker at the moment, it looks like he's on a good lap, but he's got a car in front of him that might hold him up in the final sector. I'm not sure if the car in front of Stefan will let him go. I think he's letting him go. So, but it's not ideal for Stefan. He's been held up a little bit by that car in front, so it could hinder him. But you never know if he can just keep it together through the final sector. He could improve possibly.
Neil Santowski and Bob Kern both gained spots on their last lap. Julio Forcolin a bit ahead of Stefan here. Forcolin comes across, does not improve. Matt Solblum going to be the next one. He actually hasn't set a lap yet. He's down in 48th. And looks like this one won't count for him either. So what has Schlacher got? He's up to 11th. This is very high up the field for the 08. As he crosses the line. Ooh, it improves to a 2:09.142, just about half a tenth quicker, but it doesn't gain him a position. Sadro not able to overtake Gaspers, still stays about 0.3 back. And I believe that should be it. Yeah, Paul Jackson's coming around now, and he was the first to take the checkered flag. A lot of cars out there with the grid set. We've got to go through our starting order because there's so many to try and run down. It's going to be David Gaspers on the pole again. He's already taken 3 wins. Can he make it a perfect 4 for 4? Daniel Sadro will be starting next to him in second. Billy Bob Wright will be starting in P3 today with Ian Haycox to his outside in 4th. Ed Doherty starts 5th with Jason Perry in P6. On the inside of the next row, Antonio Reese starts 7th with Emil Orza in 8th. Fred Desai starts 9th, and rounding out the top 10, it's Miroslav Juracek.
Starting in P11 is Stefan Slacker. P12 is Stephen Elson. Alongside him is Niels Sentowski in P13. P14 is Greg Stefani. And P15 is Michael Dobek. Alongside him in P16 is Chris Murakami. P17 is Sergio Girelli. And P18 is Adam Bradshaw. P19 Stevie Ray. And rounding out the top 20 is Philip Chauvin.
21st is going to be Tom Gradwell with PJ Gowdy in the 22nd spot. Michael Shaw starts 23rd. Kenneth Bately in P24 is followed by Yuri Cox in 25th. Then you've got Brett Holton in P26 and Tim Van Dormelen in 27th. Jim McGill will be starting 28th. Then the next row has Paul Jackson to the inside in 29th spot. And 30th goes to Kurt Nunez.
And P31 is Richard Franco. P32 is Larry McLeod. Jerry McAreevy, I'm quite surprised by that, starting at P33. P34 is Dominic Bureau. P35 is Nick Carty. Jeff Jacobson starts in P36. P37 is Paolo Brem. P38 is Brad Spiddle. P39 is Pascal Montemorenzi. And P40 rather is J. William Smith.
41st is going to be Paul Godden, Brian Short 42nd, and Julio Forcolin 43rd. Last few drivers to put a time in was Bob Kern in 44th, Cyrus Durgan in 45th, and Richard Gordakowski 46th. Samuel Dick, the last one with a time, in 47th. Hugh Haycox is not in the session right now, so I believe Matt Solblum should round out our 48 cars to take the grid. That you can see they're just about done doing now. They will have a pace lap around behind the pace car. A lot of cars have been showing up race after race this season, Ryan. You've been down and out there dealing with it actually on the front lines. What is it like trying to deal with the traffic when you have that many competitors?
It's an absolute nightmare, but at the same time, it's a fun challenge, and I think with a lot of cars on track, it's going to be a tough race today. But the early stages of the race this season, whenever I've raced, is I've just went in with the plan of in the early stages just settle down, just do my own thing, settle into a rhythm, and then just see how it pans out. But I think with this being such a long track, I think some of these guys might be trying to, especially in the midfield, trying to scrap amongst themselves to try and gain some track position in the early stages of this race.
You talk about settle in to the race as well, and we've seen a number of tracks in this car are draft tracks where we get a train going, and it's hard to try and shake the driver behind you. Is this one of those tracks? Are the straights long enough that you start pulling people along, or is it twisty enough that if you've got the pace, like if you're gaspers, that you can start to pull away from people?
I think a track such as this, like at Silverstone, I think with the long straights, it gives everyone a chance to stick together or stay close to each other. Uh, I think David Gaspers, he's maybe one that could maybe try and pull away and just build up a bit of a gap. Also, the same with Daniel Sadro, he might be able to stick with David, but yeah, it's going to be difficult for these guys to try and separate themselves in the early stages of the race anyway.
So as they come down one of the long straights here, this is up the hanger straight into Stowe Corner. Should see some passes at this point. Swift blind right-hander for the drivers, which then takes them down a hill and into Vale. Some really sharp chicanes in this version too here, Ryan, this being one of them. In the lower gears, I always found it at times tough to try and figure out which gear to be in. Is the gearing pretty well suited, or is there some kind of awkward spots around this place?
From the official races I've done this week, I've actually found that the gearing was actually pretty good around here. Some of these hairpin corners, you could probably use fourth gear, but I normally use third gear just to try and get a better launch in some of the corners. But there wasn't any issues for me. I found it's just it actually suited the car really well.
That's good news for the drivers, at least, as we ride on board with Paul Godden, which gives us a good chance to plug the sponsor once again. You can see their Sim stickers on his hood. Big thanks to them for sponsoring this season. And again, if you want to check them out and get a little bit of a discount, you can use the promo code GSRC10 when purchasing. It'll give you 10% off all of your orders for the entire season 1 of 2020. So that goes until the early March time of the year. So they can now come out through Priory and into the section that brings us through Brooklands and Luffield. That pace car is going to pull away pretty soon, and Gaspers is going to have control of the field. 40 minutes of racing here for round 4. So far, it's been dominated by Gaspers, not just this season, but the past season and a half. Can he continue that? Porsche pace car is in. David Gaspers waiting, and now he accelerates away. Green flag is out as they come across the line. It's not the greatest of starts for Daniel Sadro, as Billy Bob Wright already looking to the inside. He starts to fall back, though. He gets back into the racing line. Top 6 or 7 are all single file until you get to Antonio Reese, who ducks to the inside of Jason Perry. And that's going to give him a spot potentially, but they still say side by side. A little bit of 3 wide back behind them. I see Steve Elson in there, and now everybody's really got to get it sorted out. Looks like Perry is going to take 6th away.
Yeah, just watching the cars coming through this Maggots and Beckett section. Everyone seems to have made it through nice and clean so far. There was a bit of free wide action for the back in the midfield, but everyone made a sideways in the background.
Ooh, and that is not good for him because he's usually pretty fast. We'll get back to that in a bit as we got a challenge for the lead. Sadro looking to the inside of Gaspers. Gaspers still powers his way around Stowe, and that's going to give him the inside into Vale. So he fends him off successfully for now, as looks like we have another car off in Stowe. I think that's Dorelli. As he's falling down the order. He's going to get going once again.
Yeah, I was just looking. Oh, sorry, Joe.
That's okay. I was going to say we had a little bit of a change between Ian Haycox and Ed Doherty. Doherty managed to get ahead of Haycox there down the hangar straight, but now they plunge through Abbey and head towards the final section.
Yeah, just looking at the park, get behind the. Just looking at the park between who's that? Billy Bob Wright, I believe, or yeah, the lifetime is playing up. But I was just looking at the park in the midfield as well. It looks like everyone's. But Ed Doherty tries to go for a move contact.
It does get into him, but it looks like Billy Bob is able to collect it. He loses the spot, and Ian Haycox is going to try to go the long way around to Luffield now, but he gets shoved out. So returning the favor that he just received, Billy Bob Wright gets his elbows out. Jason Perry says, "Thank you very much. I'm going to get a spot." So does Antonio Reese. And now Perry is already spying the back of Billy Bob Wright to see if he could get onto the podium. As we got a pass for the lead on screen. Sadro manages to overtake Gaspers down the pit straight.
Yep, Daniel. I thought David Gaspers was going to get away really easy, but Daniel Sadro's thought just decided, nope, you're not getting away from me that easy, and he's made a move for the lead as they go through the Maggots and Beckett section, and I think there's been some issues, Joe.
Yeah, there's a big accident back in turn one. Tom Gradwell was involved in that. We're seeing multiple cars, honestly. This looks like it started with Bradshaw and Ray. You see them in front of them. Bradshaw on the number 5. And you know what? I think Ray gets his nose in and unfortunately is shut out at the last moment here by Bradshaw. That was a bit of a dive. Yeah, it was a little bit of a late move there from Steve. It's like, oh, did we have something happen to Ian Haycox? Oh, yeah, and Fred Desai. Both of them took a hard hit coming out of Chapel. This was Ian Haycox slipping up, and it was just ahead of Stefan Schlager, who nearly lost it himself.
Yeah, that was good heads-up driving from Stefan to avoid that. He's managed to get by, but he's big damage for Ian Haycock.
Well, that's spread apart the front of the field quite a bit. Oh, and now Doherty's had problems. Wow, this is a lot of front runners finding themselves falling victim to this track. Dobek nearly joined him as Doherty tries to get the car running. This is way too early for a pit stop here, Ryan, so I think we're going to see a lot of drivers have to make an extra visit.
Absolutely. I think at this early stage of the race, if you're making a pit stop, you won't be able to make it to the finish. You're definitely going to have to make 2 pit stops to make sure you get to the end of the race. But everyone just seems to be at this stage of the race. Everyone's just losing their head and they're just making silly moves. As Michael Shaw gets a bit sideways in front of Door here, but yeah, everyone should be settling down instead of just making silly moves. It's just it's just no point going for it at this stage of the race.
So he now gets into pit lane to take his spare car. As Kurt Nunez is very slow on the front stretch, and that's checking everybody up. You could see that's Bately, Shaw, Van Dormelen all going by. Van Dormelen is going to get another run on Shaw and gets to the inside as they come up to the Maggots Beckett sequence. Shaw's not going to fight it and slots into line. Everyone
manages to get through sensibly, and yeah, it's a big pack of cars as well. And I'm just watching Jerry McAreevy as well. He's slowly starting to make progress through the field. He started towards the back of the field, and he's up. Yeah, he started P33 and he's up into P23. So 10 positions gained for Jerry.
Let's update you on the front as we continue to watch this fight down here in the mid-pack. And that looks like that one's going to go in favor of Fred Desai ahead of Cox, Bately, Van Dormelen, and so forth. But your new order up at the front is Gaspers leading Sadro with Perry about 2 seconds behind. Reese is now up to 4th, and Nielsen Towski has gone from 13th to 5th currently. So Niels has really capitalized on drivers having all sorts of issues.
It's a fantastic start from Niels. He's managed to gain loads of positions, and he's up, as you say, Joe. He's up into P5, and he's slowly catching Antonio Rees in front of him.
Stefan Schlocker's also gained a lot. He got passed on this lap by Santowski. There you see the 08 being chased by Steve Elson, Emil Orza, Chris Murakami, and Greg Stefani. Basically, that group goes all the way back to 10th position, way wide for Neil Santowski off the turn. Stefan Schlocker, though, not close enough to try and use that to his advantage. Steve Elson, though, closing in on the Austrian. Steph is going to try and go defensive. Holds him off as they come down into Copse. That's a little bit wide out there for Elson. Compromises his exit. Emil Orza sees that. He starts to pounce, but lifts before they get to the set of S's coming up.
That was good heads up driving by Orza. He decided to back out of it and not do anything silly. Yeah, I was just watching the replay with Stefan and Elson. It looks like Slacker just got a bit sideways on the entry of the corner, and it caused Elson to back up a little bit.
And the lead's going to change hands once again. It's done this multiple times when we weren't watching. Sadro and Gaspers have been swapping back and forth, but they seem to be doing it somewhat cleanly because they're still 3 seconds ahead of Perry. Sadro comes back to the racing line just in front of Gaspers, barely enough to chop him off as they now weave through Vale and Club.
Yeah, these two guys are just kind of on their own at the moment. I guess they're working together. I know both of them sit on the same Discord channel, so they might be working together just to try and pull away from the pack behind them. So they're not fighting each other too much. They're kind of, as Sadro gets a bit sideways over the curb.
Manages to hold it together, though, and this certainly brings Gaspers right up behind him. A little bit of a bump draft there. And I think we've had an issue with Steve Elson because he's falling down my timing and scoring. And indeed, he's gone off at Abbey. This was, well, I'm not sure if he braked too late or if he was actually trying to attack Schlocker here. Either way, car winds up pointed the wrong way, and he falls well down. He's already in 14th with just that one slip up.
I just looked at the replay as well, and it brings us back to the lift-off oversteer subject. It looks like he just braked, and possibly the rear end just got away from him, and he maybe didn't use enough throttle under braking to keep the rear end stable.
Well, swap back around here for the lead. Gaspers up to the front once more. Interestingly, well, I guess it's only one car that they'll be approaching. But another 5 laps, and I think they'll already be hitting some lap traffic in the form of Nick Carty. So right on board with Sadro coming up the hanger straight. He'll start to reel him in, but he's not close enough this time to try and get the lead back. At least I wouldn't think so. And indeed, he backs out of it. Got a little bit of action between Billy Bob Wright and Michael Dobeck for 10th position. Boy, Billy Bob has dropped way back here. You see them heading into Stowe, and Dobeck is going to take P10 away. Billy Bob gets a good launch off the corner. He'll try and come back at him, but he'll be on the outside. This will be a difficult ask. Billy Bob knows it, breaks a little bit early, and decides to get back in line.
Yeah, I think Billy Bob tried to, or was thinking about making a move up the inside, but I think something's happened to Juracek.
Yeah, I think this is a single car incident. It is indeed. He's going to take it way too fast here into Stowe. You're going to see at the end of the hanger straight, number 84 had already fallen down a lot of spots here, Ryan. I'm surprised to see this many mistakes from Miroslav.
Yeah, me too. He's normally one of the quick drivers that runs up at the front, but I've just watched the replay now, and he just runs wide. He runs wide and just goes off into the gravel, and I don't know if he's tried to keep his foot in it and might have lost it, and yeah, he just lost it all on his own.
Only had 3, well, I guess 1 DNF at this point. It looks like 2 DNFs. Nick Carty has decided to end his day, and so has Miroslav Juracek. As Franco. Oh, and here on screen, we got a nice little battle. I was about to say Richard Franco had an off, but this is more important right here. This is Antonio Reese and Jason Perry, as they get very, very close coming up into the Maggots-Beckett sequence, but Reese has to stay behind.
Fantastic battle between these two guys. I think Antonio Reeves got the slipstream heading into Maggots and Beckett's, but he couldn't really do anything. So he might be able to make a move on Jason here as they head down the straight, and it looks like Reese has possibly got the run on Jason.
Yep, that sleigh can't go any faster, unfortunately. So easy pickings for Antonio as the 77 gets to the inside. Oh, but he's got to finish the job here. Jason Perry keeps his nose in, keeps him from tracking out. Gets a good bit of momentum. Now he finally gives it up.
Yep, that was a nice move by Antonio Reeves. He managed to get up the inside, make the move and pull it off. And I think the next lap, if Jason can stick with Antonio, he should be able to maybe slingshot himself back by in the straight.
Looks like Sadro is going to fall back to second again as Gaspers now back up to the front. And I do believe, I want to say we're in the pit window at this point. Ryan, what's your assessment on that?
Quite possibly. We know that Stevie Ray is one of the drivers that likes to pit early as soon as a pit window opens, and we could see some drivers maybe doing the same thing. But as Michael Shaw's been in the pits, I believe, and out of the pits.
Yeah, if this is scheduled, I think he's our first one. He's fallen down to 42nd. Doherty has also been in and out, but that was to get his spare car after his heavy damage. There you can see it's back and whole again, and that sent him to 36th position. Still not seeing anybody come in. Got a nice little battle in the mid-pack. You're talking about Jerry McAreevy's progress. Well, he's up to 16th. He's working on Yuri Cox right now. You can see as they come past the pit entry. Rim that you just saw in the background, that was a self-spin. McAreevy is going to get to the inside. Cox is not going to fight it, and he is going to let McAreevy through.
Yep, I believe that's Jerry McAreevy up into P15, I think. So he's managing to gain more positions, but Cox is not letting him get away that easy.
So here's my question to you, Ryan, is we've got McAreevy, we've got Doherty, and obviously you frequently run this car. What is it about the spec racer that's popular with Scots?
I'm not sure. I think it's in general, it's a nice little car to drive. You don't have to do too much with regards to the setup. It provides close racing, and the community, especially in the iRacing forum for the Spec Racer Ford, is just, for me, I find anyway, it's one of the most friendliest communities around, and everyone's like, oh, it's like McAreevy's around.
What? And that is going to be off track for him. What happened there? I suddenly saw one of the cars, that was Cox, blinking, and that took me away for a second. McAreevy just went wide, and unfortunately, it looks like Tim Van Dormelen, I was unable to avoid. There's the hit. Oh. Well, at least they are within the pit window so they can get in and get repairs if needed. Van Dormelen is definitely slow, though. He's losing multiple positions right now, so he must have had his suspension given quite a thwack.
Could be. I think if I was Jerry, I would just dive into the pits now and get possibly try and get a new car and just try and take as much fuel as possible to get to the end as he tries to make a move on the number 9 car in front of him. But yeah, it was just unfortunate about that incident. Jerry was having a great race, but it just looks like he ran too wide and caught a bit of the grass and just lost grip on the left rear wheel.
All right, I think we got another scheduled stop here with Steve Elson taking the 56 into his stall. No dramas there, finds it nice and cleanly. Where will this put him in regards to Shaw, since he's the only other driver to have taken a stop right now? Shaw's actually coming out of Luffield and into Woodcote right now. Elson's already out of his pit stall and past the cones, so he's going to be easily ahead as Gaspers and Sadro having some excitement coming through Stowe. Gloves are off between these two rivals. Sadro is hell-bent on trying to stop the run that Gaspers has been on. Even though he hasn't won every single race, he's won all the races he showed up to. And this has gone on since 2019 Season 3, actually. We were told, oh, and they come together! Sadro gets turned around. Gaspers continues on. It looks like he's going to try and slow up to let him through, but if he does that too much, already they're being approached by Jason Perry, who goes by. Antonio Reese also overtakes Sadro, and Neil Santowski close to overtaking Daniel.
Just look at the replay, and yeah, it wasn't anything intense. No, it's just two guys battling each other really hard, and I think David might have just got caught out by Daniel under braking and just nothing he could do. He just went into the back of him and spun him round by accident. And it's good on David as well. He's doing the sportsman thing and allowing Daniel back through to regain the position.
Well, this is a boon for Jason Perry, who is now taking over the lead. As you said, that was a lift from Gaspers. As Billy Bob's had a problem. And this was all of his own doing. He's going to take it into the pits after that. Just lost the car a little bit and had to catch it coming through Luffield. So thankfully no damage out of that. Fred Desai also pitting ahead of him. Antonio Reese also finds himself now in second. Sadro's caught up to Gaspers, but he's being closely chased by Santowski and Schlacher. So Gaspers has got to be careful here. He could try and give away one position and wind up giving away 3.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good that he allowed Sadro to catch back up, but he's also allowed 2 other cars to catch him as well, with Santowski and Slacker as well. So, but they're closing the gap on the top 2 in front of them as well, Jason Perry and Antonio Reese. So we could be on for it could be a big pack of cars starting to form up soon.
This changes the complexion of everything. We're just about to the halfway point, and this fierce battling that was between Perry and Reese previously for a podium is now for the win, potentially, as they break into Abbey. Reese had a little bit of a look. Just wasn't going to work out this time. Oh, but he gets a fantastic launch. He decides not to take it, though.
As Reese, I thought Reese was going to go up the inside there, but he decides to back out at the last second. But him backing out of that has allowed David Gaspers, Daniel Sadro, Santowski and Slacker to catch up to them. So we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 car pack going on, or 6 car battle going on for the lead.
Now this certainly got pretty spicy, as very wide for Perry, but not as wide for Reese, who elects to take his stop now. This could be a clever move if he gets out of them battling and they all fight with one another. I wonder if he could maybe jump the group.
Quite possibly.
Oh, do we have more problems for Jerry McAreevy? Whoa! Well, you talked about the cars being tightly sprung here. Maybe a little too hard on the curb there for the number 67.
Yeah, that was a big one for Jerry. So I'd say that's his race possibly done for today. What's was sad, he was having a good run in the race, but I'm keeping an eye on Antonio Reese as well. He's coming out of the pits, and it looks like his pit stop was round about the 12.6 seconds. So he might be trying to undercut the leading pack in front of him.
Bad news is he's come out in some traffic. He's got a little ways to make up to them, but I don't think it'll take a whole lap for him to try and catch them. That's Kurt Nunez, Paul Godin, Larry McLeod, and Dominique Bureau, as well as a few others ahead of him. So he doesn't want to be held up here. He could use the slipstream potentially, as we see up at the front of that group. Is that Bradshaw going for a move? Indeed it is. Yuri Cox going to let them by. Sergio Dorelli also gets a spot in that.
I'm just looking back up at the front as well with this lead pack, and Jason Perry has got 1, 2, 3, 4 cars behind him, and this is sort of sort of reminds me of Jarno Trulli when he raced in Formula 1, when he used to get the nickname the Trulli train. Instead, it's the Perry train.
Yeah, Gaspers is all over the back of him. Sadro is there as well, Santowski and Schlacher. So who amongst this group pits? They come around Luffield. Pit entry is going to be on their right, driver's right. Perry doesn't go in, but Santowski does. Everybody else stays out. That'll give us a good idea of what this does for Reese, who's now caught up to the back of his group. And in fact, that group is battling, which is horrible news for Antonio. Meanwhile, up at the front, looks like Gasper's going to get the lead away from Perry. He gets alongside of him. Perry holds out as long as he can and finally drops behind once they hit Maggots and Beckett's.
I'm just keeping an eye on Santowski to see where he comes out. I'm keeping an eye on Rees as well. Rees is coming across the start-finish line, but I think Santowski is going to beat him or come out in front of him by miles. Yeah, he does. He's jumped Antonio Rees by quite a lot.
Wow, yeah, that... I did not expect it to be that drastically different. Santowski was about 2 seconds quicker in his pit stop, though.
That's interesting. I think Santowski might have been able to save just enough fuel to get to the finish and not put in as much fuel as he possibly might have needed. But it'll be interesting to see if he has to fuel save or not towards the end.
That front group is battling yet again. Here goes Schlacher carrying the speed out of club. It looks like it doesn't quite work out. Sadro ahead of him. Oh, now he's got it as he gets his nose to the inside. Sadro lets him through down into the Abbey chicane. Oh, and Sadro spins it. Sadro goes around. He's going to lose the front pack, and probably once the pit stops happen, he's going to be well behind Reese.
Yeah, just looking at Daniel Sadro, it looks like he just took too much curb and unsettled the car, and around she went. But that was unfortunate for Sadro. It seems to happen with Sadro sometimes. He has a good race and then makes some silly mistakes. But I wonder if any of these three will dive into the pits. Gaspers, Perry, and Slacker are into the pits.
All three. That's the last of the front group besides Daniel Sadro, who now also joins them. Yeah, we're getting close to the end of the pit window, so this makes sense. Boy, Sadro's incident looked very, very similar to McAreevy, the big difference being that he, of course, didn't go over. So he's lucky in that sense. So
just watching... Oops, sorry, Joe.
Yeah, I think the same thing as Santowski and Gasper's comparison on screen. Santowski's coming around. Where is David? He's getting going now. He's not going to have the momentum up, so we should see Santowski start to gain. He won't be able to break away from them, but this should give Santowski track position. As you can see, he's now fully alongside, and he is by.
Yep, Santowski just managed to beat him, beat Gaspers rather, on the pit exit, and manages to take the lead. But yeah, that must have been an awesome outlet for Santowski to gain that many positions, but not far behind him either. Actually, these two guys have managed to gain some time on the other cars behind them.
Gaspers has got the slipstream up the hangar straight, so that lead won't last very long for Niels. Now there goes David. And that is not for the lead, though. We still have Dobek and Gowdy out there in first and second place, but they have yet to take their pit stops. There's Dobek leading the way. Gowdy, potentially your Spec 2 leader, depending on what that winds up being with that 777. The first one with a 200 number is Dominique Bureau right now, but he is also yet to pit. He is in 9th position. Well, it was a pretty wild start, Ryan, but it seems like things have sort of calmed down, at least in terms of driver control. Action is still pretty hot out on track, at least.
it seems that everyone's starting to settle down now after the pit stops. It's just looking throughout the field as well. It's not spread out, but it's not hectic like it was in the early stage of the race. And watching David Gaspers as well, he's starting to slowly pull away from Sentowski behind him. So I wonder if David can pull away and build up a little bit of a gap. But yeah, I think Dobek and Gaudi are in the pits now.
Ooh, and Schlacher and Perry are fighting for what'll be third place. I think Schlacher's going to come away with it. He gets to the inside of Kops and indeed give P3 to the Austrian. Perry carries on behind him as we ride on board with the number 97. It's all broken apart. The top two are about 3.3 seconds ahead of this pair. And you've got another 3 seconds back to Antonio Rees, who runs in 5th position. Sadro, after all was said and done, finds himself in P6.
As Jason Perry's got a run on Slacker, but I don't think Perry's going to be able to make a move. Oh, he might be able to make a move with sneak up the inside. Slacker moves very late to defend the inside.
They stay put. Schlacher 3rd, Perry 4th. Sadro is coming forward, I think, pretty quickly on Antonio Rees, though. He's gone by some lap traffic. Richard Franco has about 2 seconds to make up to the 77 as we watch this battle on screen for 3rd. Perry sticking with Schlacher. From what I've seen of both these drivers, Ryan, I don't think we're going to see any quarter given.
Absolutely not, and we know how competitive and we know how competitive Slacker can be, and he won't let anyone go by that easy. He'll make them fight for it, and if these two guys keep battling away with each other, Antonio Rees is going to be on them in no time, and same with Daniel Sadro.
The irony of this is, maybe irony or appropriateness, depending on which way you want to see it, is that before the race started, after qualifying, Schlacher felt like he made a mistake and gave away a few tenths, said that he felt he could have gotten 3rd on the grid. Well, he's 3rd in the race right now, so I guess it all worked out in the end. If things stay how they are, he's got to hold on to it for about 11 more seconds. And currently, looking at this, Ryan, he's starting to stretch away from Perry. He's giving himself some breathing room.
I was just watching Stefan as well. He's on board. He's not trying too hard. He's been really smooth, and yeah, like you said, Joe, he's slowly pulling away from Jason behind him. But we know with that straight that someone could be away from you, but they can close the gap on you if they've got a slipstream.
Bad news for Neil Sentowski fans. He has definitely dropped off of Gaspers. It's 2 seconds between 1st and 2nd place, and that's the next goal for Schlacher, is to get up to him. Meanwhile, we're watching Murakami a little bit farther back. He's got a couple cars back there. Looks like Emil Orza and Greg Stefani giving chase, and Orza's got a great run onto the hangar straight. He could have this 7th spot pretty easily.
Yeah, just watching Orza right now. He's up the inside. He's up the inside of Murakami, and he manages to pull the move off.
Don't need to go to it, but Michael Dobek spun himself coming out of Chapel, and Daniel Sadro with yet another error. And this time he does find the wall. This is looking a lot like McAreevy. Well, monkey see, monkey do, sort of in a way, because he did the same thing as McAreevy spinning it in Abbey. And he did the same thing as McAreevy, spinning it in Stowe. He did have to take a tow. The car was too damaged. And even though I think he might have a spare car. Actually, no. He might have used a spare car after what happened before. Oof. So his day, this is going to hurt until the drop weeks are applied to them.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for Daniel Sadro. He's not had the best of races today. It's just not... He had a decent start to the race, and it's just gone downhill. And I watched his onboard. It looked like he got some understeer and just touched the grass and spun round. And unfortunately, end to his race. But I'm looking back at the battle between Emil Orza, Chris Murakami, and Greg's. Oh, something's going on with P3.
Yeah, we're watching the replay of that pass. That was Schlacher taking out a few cones as he lost control. That was coming out of Brooklands. Perry took third place back from that, and the battle is on once again.
At one stage in this battle as well, it looked like Stefan was pulling away, but Jason's took that position back. But I think if Stefan can get a good exit here, he should be able to make a run on Jason and regain that position as they head on to the straight. And I'm just looking at Neil Santowski as well. I don't know if he's maybe not put enough fuel in, so he might be fuel saving possibly.
Ooh, that is not good. Just a little bit of a bump draft from Schlacher on Perry. Gives him that extra bit of pace coming up to Stowe. Ooh, Tim Van Dormelen had a bit of an issue coming through Cops. And he had some help. I think Billy Bob Wright maybe had made a little bit of contact with him. Watches from the 20, though, kind of turns in maybe a little too much. I was expecting him to turn in earlier. Whatever the case, it sent him slightly into the wall. And Billy Bob Wright continues on.
Yeah, it might have been possibly Billy Bob Wright dived out the inside, and he might have caught a Tim unaware that he was up the inside, and unfortunately Tim was a passenger, and the only way he was going was into the wall.
So on they go, and I'm curious about Santowski. I wonder if we could ride on board with the 39 to see if we can hear any lifting and coasting for him. He's not losing out to Perry, and I'm not sure if that's more to Perry and Schlacher battling with one another that's costing them time. Let's listen in here. Doesn't really sound like it on that one. Even if he is saving, he could still keep the second place if both Perry and Schlacher keep each other distracted. Meanwhile, Antonio Reese might also join the fray here soon. Because Stefan Schlacher and Jason Perry... Oh, never mind. Commentator's curse. Antonio Reese finds himself turned the wrong way out of Chapel. Orza gets the spot. And even Greg Stefani is going to be able to easily breeze by. Let's ride on board the Golden Machine. Car just starts to go away from him. Boy, this was costly because he didn't have the speed here, Ryan. Coming onto the hangar straight, both Murakami and Stefani just easily breezed on through.
Indeed. It also brings me back to my point as well that you can't really wrestle these spec racer Fords into the corners. You've got to be smooth. If you try and wrestle it into the corners, it bites you and just spins you around as we just saw as Antonio gets a bit sideways on the exit there.
Yeah, so maybe he's not done yet. Thankfully, it's a lapped car next to him there. That's Richard Franco. So that won't be another position lost. We've still got 41 cars, impressively, on the lead lap. And that's after pit stops with only 5 minutes left to go. There is your leader, David Gaspers, 3.5 seconds ahead of Neil Santowski now. Santowski is definitely one of the hard chargers of the race, going from 13 to 2nd. I think Dominique Bureau might have him a bit beat, though. Bureau qualified 34th, and he did indeed qualify. He's up to 15th. Actually down to 16th right now. It looks like Billy Bob Wright has recently gone by him.
Yeah, Dominic's been having a good race so far. He's been keeping it at trouble in the... As you said, Joe started P34 and managed to have a bit of a quiet race, and he's up into... He was P15, but down to P16 after Billy Bob Wright passed him. But yeah, if Dominic can finish the race and round about this position, it should help him in the Spec 2 Championship.
Got another bump draft happening between Schlacher and Perry, trying to give him a little bit of pace. wonder if Schlocker's going to try and get them to run down Santowski. If they are, they certainly don't have a lot of time left. There's 3 seconds to make up in a little less than 4 minutes.
I'm just watching the gap between Perry and Santowski as well, and Perry and Slacker are slowly but surely catching Santowski. So Santowski might be fuel saving. He might have not. He might have made a mix or made an error with the fuel at the pit stop.
He is one of the shortest stops. I see Chris Murakami was about the only one with a quicker stop than him. Michael Shaw did as well. Otherwise, he was certainly spent very little time stationary getting that fuel in. We continue to watch third and fourth place seemingly now working together, hoping for a little bit better reward. Oh, Paul Godden don't need to go to it. He had a spin coming out of Stowe. That sends him down to 24th. So 2 laps to go now as Gaspers has taken across the finish line. Oh, and, well, you were talking about that fuel. Murakami, who was in for a similar amount of time as Santowski, is coming in for another bit of fuel here.
It looks like Murakami's made the error that I was talking about and not put enough fuel on. Normally, when I've done these races.
Meanwhile, battle for 10th, 3 wide down into Kopp's corner. PJ Gowdy manages to get 9th place with that, but he goes a little bit wide. Fred Desai is in there, and Michael Dobek as well. Despite using a little bit of the AstroTurf, Gowdy in that 777 manages to stay ahead.
Fantastic battle between these 3 cars as well for the last of the places in the top 10, and not far behind these guys is it looks like is Michael Shaw. So it's going to be soon. It's going to be a 4-car battle.
Yeah, impressive stuff here. They come up the hangar straight into Stowe. A little bit of the gain. Oh, and did we lose Stevie Ray here? We didn't lose him, but he certainly lost control. This was into the Maggots Beckett sequence as we watch this battle continue on screen. Desai manages to get ahead of Gowdy as they break down into Vale. Gowdy still trying to defend as he almost bangs wheels with Michael Dobek. Dobek's going to have the inside of Club, and that moves him up to 10th. Michael Shaw, you were talking about him before. He finally catches them, and he's already going aggressive on PJ.
Yeah, I'm just watching Michael Shaw at the moment. He's right behind PJ, and as Michael Dobek gets a bit sideways in front of him. But if Shaw can stick with these guys, he might be able to. If I was Shaw, stick behind them, wait for something to happen. If something happens between these cars in front of him, he could be there to pick up a couple of the word I like to use, freebies.
Oh, white flag is out, and Perry has run down Santowski to about 2.3 seconds. I mean, put yourself in Schlocker's shoes at this point, Ryan. Do you start fighting Perry now because it's the white flag lap? I don't think they can make up those 2 seconds.
With it being the last lap, if I was Slacker, I would be going for it and trying to snatch that final podium position. So, yeah, chop, Stefan, go for it.
See what he does. He's got the slipstream. Perry's going to cover off the inside. And of course, a long way around, almost pushes him out. Stays right about in the middle of the track. And boy, it's getting aggressive between those two. Stefan Schlocker has the outside, which is going to be the inside. Track position in his favor. Perry, a little bit more momentum, but now as it comes to the braking, it's a game of chicken, and Schlocker gets it done. Oh, but they come together, and he forces Perry off into the grass. Oh, in front of them is that Santowski. Santowski is off. That was with lap traffic, and hopefully he has enough fuel to be able to make it to the end from there. So Schlocker now finds himself in second place. Gaspers up in front of them is just cruising to a victory ahead of all the fracas. A 10-second gap from himself to the 08. The DH driver is going to make it a perfect 4 wins in the first 4 rounds of the 2020 season. He's coming up on some lap traffic. That's Cyrus Durgan there, and that's going to be easy for him to try and get around. It actually almost runs into the back of him. Oh, Gasper's a little bit slow off there. I think he's got enough fuel as he comes to the line and wins here today at Silverstone. Stefan Schlacker still having to fight his way to the line. Jason Perry is close, but not close enough. Stefan second, Perry third. Santowski does have enough fuel, but he unfortunately falls off the podium and finishes fourth. Meanwhile, Desai still leading Dobek, ahead of Gowdy, ahead of Shaw. Will this change around before the finish line? Doesn't look like it. Looks like Desai's got enough fuel. I don't know if Gowdy does. He's a little bit slow off the corner. Shaw is coming up to his outside, but he runs out of racetrack before the finish line. 17th spot with some nice action between Bradshaw and Bately. This is for 16th position. As Bately comes to the line, he's got that one nailed down. Stevie Ray gets the car going once again, but Larry McLeod just beats him out. A lot of cars battling to the line here. Looks like Paul Godin is going to have to settle for 24th. Not too bad considering he didn't qualify and was on 41st on the grid. So let's figure out what happened to Neil Santowski here. He seemed to have enough fuel at the end because it didn't look like he was sputtering. I think this is just lap traffic. That's Montmorency just in front of him that you can see. Oh no, Montmorency steers into him. And that takes him out. Oh boy, Niels is going to be fuming once he gets out of the car. A second place robbed of him for sure. So that takes us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you stick around on screen, you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Silverstone. We just watched round 4 of the Weekend Warriors presented by Sim Stickers, and David Gaspers took another victory. He was challenged by Daniel Sadro for much of the way, but once Sadro made a mistake, really all we saw was Neil Santowski briefly hang with him before he even fell away. Stefan Schlacker was really the surprise of the race, from 11th to 2nd for him. Didn't like his qualifying. Well, his race proved to be excellent out there. Jason Perry battled with him to try and take that second place away, but he settled for third in the end. Neil Santowski probably deserved a second place. The lap traffic, unfortunately, denying him that. Still, a fourth from 13th is a good climb, with Emil Orza finishing fifth. Greg Stefani as well, 14th to 6th for him. Antonio Rees, unusual mistakes, unfortunately slot him back down to 7th where he started. Steve Elson finishing 8th, and he could have had more himself. Fred Desai finishing 9th, and Michael Dobeck rounds out your top 10.
Finishing in P11 was PJ Gowdy, P12 was Michael Shaw, Sergio Girelli finishing in P13, P14 was Chris Murakami, P15 was Billy Bob Wright, Dominic Bureau finished in P16, P17 was Kenneth Batley, Adam Bradshaw finished in P18, P19 was Larry McLeod, and rounding out the top 20 was Stevie Ray.
Tim Van Dormelen finished in 21st, Kurt Nunez 22nd. Ed Doherty, oh man, bad day for him. Started in 5th and he finished 23rd. Brett Holton was 24th, and then Bob Kern gaining a lot of spots. He qualified legitimately in 44th and wound up in 25th. Paul Godden in 26th, nearly following him through. Then you've got Jeff Jacobson in 27th, and Brad Speidel comes over and races up to 28th. We just saw him over in the bootleg series last night. Samuel Dick was 29th and Jim McGill was 30th. Rest of the cars you see on your screen were mostly a lap down. We were 39 cars on the lead lap in the end, but obviously many of these drivers had issues. Let's talk to our winner, though, David Gaspers. David, looked like you had a little bit of a run-in with Daniel. Tell us what happened with that incident.
Yeah, I was lifting off the throttle a bit earlier there, and was even braking a bit earlier than normal, but at the start of the braking zone, he braked harder than I expected, and I misjudged that.
It's very sportsmanlike of you to lift. You even gave positions away to try and let him back through, or at least let him catch you. Did that pain you at all to try and to have to let drivers go just to get back with him, or was that kind of no big deal to you?
No, I didn't really think about that.
Wow, that is impressive then. That goes to show not just fast, but very sportsmanlike. This has been quite a run you've been on. I know we've already talked about it a lot, but you're now 4 for 4 in this season as well. Is that second perfect season in a row possible for you?
I don't know. That also depends on the other drivers. I will try it.
You're obviously being challenged here and there, but you still continue to prove to be very fast. Congratulations, David, and enjoy your victory.
Thank you.
That was David Gaspers, winner here today at Silverstone. Up next, second place, Stefan Schlacker. Ryan is caught up with him after it looks like his race pace proved much better than his qualifying.
Absolutely. It was, Steph, I have to say, congratulations on P2 after starting in P11, I believe it was. How was the race from your point of view? And did you expect to finish on the podium?
Well, first of all, thank you. I don't know. Qualifying was weird. I had a big mistake through Luffield at the last lap, which did cost me 3/10, which would have been just about enough for a third place in qualifying. But you never know. Did they put in that lap on draft or not? Where I had draft, so. You can't really take much from that, but it did give me a little bit of hope to maybe get somewhere close to top 6. And then, all the guys, the top dogs normally of this year, started to make their mistakes, and I just continued on, and all of a sudden I'm in 4th place fighting against Jason there for the 3rd place. Or rather, I was in 3rd place, and then, he started to fight a little bit. I then told him to just stick behind, get Niels. Then I made that mistake, and it all somehow played out for me in 2nd place.
Talking of Niels as well, he was just ahead of you guys. Did you think he was maybe having to fuel save? I was looking at the gap at times, and it was coming down. The gap was coming down slowly. or did you think to yourself that third place was going to be the best possible result you could get on the podium, or did it ever cross your mind that you could possibly finish in second?
Well, after the pit stop, the first 2 laps, I thought maybe if we really work together, we might be able to catch him. That's why I told Jason to just stick behind and, bump draft me to get up to Niels. But then I saw that we were running quite similar lap times. We were catching him about a 10th or 2 a lap, but it never really was quite a lot. And yeah, I then just gave up after my mistake to really catch that second place driver. I was still bump drafting Jason because you never know what happens, like we have seen now on that last lap with Niels. So yeah, you never know what happens. So still keep it somewhat of an option for you to go that one position further. But yeah, I didn't think that I'm gonna finish in second place. I was always in that long term. I was running just get ahead of Jason on that last lap down Hanger Straight, and then just make every option unavailable for him.
Great stuff. Well, thanks for joining us, Stefan. And again, congratulations on the second place finish. Will you be racing next week?
I will most definitely race next week.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Steph, and we look forward to seeing you on track next week. And talk to you later. As the winner of the Spec 2 class, Greg Stefani, is currently waiting to be interviewed by Joe.
Yeah, we've got the Hoosier here with us, having finished in 6th place. Greg, from 14th on the grid up to 6th. You can't be too sad about that. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that went. This is the first time I've really been happy with my performance in open qualifying. So that was good. And then I'm surprised that I gained that much, but I'm pretty excited about it. So
yeah, we're going from what is an older version of this track here on iRacing to a very new track here on iRacing with Barcelona next week. Have you had much chance to try and race the Spec Racer over there?
Haven't done anything with the Spec Racer. I've done the MX-5s and some Formula Renault in a different game, so hopefully it won't be completely.
But it sounds like you tend to like some of the more lower powered cars. Would you consider the Spec Racer kind of your main car here, or what's your big focus here on iRacing?
Yeah, Spec Racer is really my main series, but I'm also doing a little bit of Camel GT, so pretty polar opposites there in terms of power.
Yeah, I'd say so. But still, you've performed well. Is there anybody you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Thanks to Chris and Emil for the good fight all race long.
Oh, thanks for giving us some good action as well. That was Greg Stefani, our 6th place finisher. And that's going to wrap up our interview. So why don't we thank our sponsor one more time before we go, Sim Stickers. Again, if you want to check them out, simstickers.co.uk. And, of course, make sure and use that GSRC10 promo code so that you can get 10% off. Thanks to iRacing for putting us on IESN. If you get the opportunity, make sure and subscribe. It's very easy. Just click the big red subscribe button. There you go. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Ryan, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it on globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media. Our Twitter is @GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, or Instagram, GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, heading over to Spain for Barcelona. That'll be Sunday, January 12th, a week from now at 2:45 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Make sure and check out Big C's MX-5 Challenge, which is coming up in just a moment. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.